The vase was the only thing hiding me, tall, ugly, packed with fake lavender stems and dust, and somehow, that useless decoration kept me invisible while my wife ran her fingers down another man's sleeve. She giggled. Actually giggled. I didn't even know she still had that laugh. It had been years since I heard it at home. At our table, the one with the chipped corner and the burned-in coffee ring. All I ever got were yawns and scrolls through her phone. But here, under dim golden light, with a jazz trio playing in the corner and 2 glasses of wine sweating between them, she was someone else. Someone I didn't recognize. She leaned in like he was gravity, like her whole body had been waiting all week to tilt in his direction. And me? I just stood there, silent, paralyzed, completely, stupidly unseen. They were 2 bites into their steak. She picked off his mushroom and popped it into her mouth like it was the most natural thing in the world. I don't think she even did that with me when we were dating. She hated mushrooms. At least, I thought she did. He wasn't even attractive. That was the worst part. He was aggressively average. One of those men whose only defining features were confidence and cologne. He wore both like a badge. But she looked at him like he was some rare god carved from marble. I wanted to scream, to slap the wine off the table and demand an explanation. Instead, I kept hiding behind the damn vase, my fingers digging into the menu stand like it was going to stop me from collapsing. And that's when she said it. She leaned closer, way too close, and whispered, "I missed you last night." My ears rang. I had been home last night, cooking, doing laundry, setting the alarm. She said she was tired. She said she needed sleep. But apparently, she needed him. He smirked. "Next time, leave your phone off." She laughed again. That stupid, glassy laugh. She touched his knee under the table. He kissed her hand. I couldn't breathe. I don't even remember walking up. My legs just moved, like my body had finally had enough of waiting for the rest of me to catch up. I stepped around the vase. And that's when she saw me. Her fork froze halfway to her mouth. She turned pale like she saw a ghost. The man looked up, confused. "Do we?" But I was only looking at her. And I said exactly 7 words. 7 words that made her drop the fork, that made the whole table next to them fall into silence, that made the music feel like it stopped mid-note. "You drop your ring in his pocket too?" That's what I said. Loud enough that the waiter 2 tables down turned his head. Loud enough that the people seated beside them froze mid-bite. But not so loud that I was screaming. No, I wanted her to hear every syllable with razor clarity. I wanted it to slice straight through her fake little fantasy moment. Her hand jerked back like she'd touched fire. She blinked, stunned, lips parting like she might come up with an excuse. An explanation. Anything. But nothing came. Her voice? Gone. Stolen by guilt. Or maybe by fear. The guy, Jordan, as I'd later find out, stood up like he was about to defend her. He puffed out his chest like a balloon ready to pop, and said, "Hey man, I think you're confused." I didn't even look at him. He was background noise. Wallpaper. This wasn't about him. This was about the woman who'd promised me forever but traded it in for dim lighting and someone else's cologne. She finally spoke. "What are you doing here?" What was I doing there? Really? "I was home," I said. "Where you said you'd be tonight. Doing laundry. Eating leftovers. Watching that dumb baking show you pretend to hate." Now her face flushed red. Not from embarrassment. No, it was something else. Anger. Because I had dared to interrupt her lie. "You followed me." I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the absurdity of it was choking me. She cheats. She lies. She makes plans under my nose. And I'm the problem for following her? "You left your location on," I said with a shrug. "Guess he's not the only thing you forgot to turn off." That got a laugh from someone at the next table. Not loud, but enough. She noticed. Her eyes shot to the side like daggers, then back to me. I could see the cracks forming, her face twitching, hands fidgeting with the napkin like it might shield her from the judgment spreading through the room. "Let's talk outside," she whispered, trying to regain control. "No," I said firmly. "Let's talk here. Let's talk where you told him you missed him last night. The same night I was folding your laundry and cooking you dinner you didn't bother to eat." She sat down again. Not by choice. Her legs gave out. Jordan tried again. "Look, man." I turned to him. Calm. Dead-eyed. "You touch her again, and I'll make sure your next date's in the ER." He sat. Fast. She tried to grab my hand across the table. Habit, I guess. But I pulled back. I wanted her to feel the space. The space she'd carved with every lie, every text, every silent night pretending she was too tired or not in the mood. "I didn't plan for this to happen," she mumbled. That's the line. That's the line every cheater pulls out when they've run out of lies. Like it just happened to her. Like she tripped and fell into another man's bed. "Oh," I said, tilting my head. "But you had enough time to plan outfits, reservations, excuses. Sounds like you planned everything but getting caught." She was crying now, not sobbing. Just that quiet, guilty, pathetic kind of crying that tries to look innocent. But there was nothing left to save. I pulled something from my jacket pocket and set it on the table. Her wedding ring. I'd taken it from her jewelry tray before leaving the house. She hadn't even noticed it missing. That said everything, didn't it? "Looks like you won't be needing this anymore." She gasped. "You're ending this? Just like that?" "Just like that," I said. "Same way you ended us." Then I walked away, past the stunned tables, past the waiters frozen in place, past the hostess who looked like she'd just watched a movie unfold in real life. And I didn't look back. But oh, the real storm didn't even start until the next day. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was hurt. That happened long before the dinner. I didn't sleep because I was finally awake. You spend so much time lying next to someone who's already miles away, and when the truth finally breaks open, it's like your whole brain is catching up. I laid there in the dark, the house too quiet, noticing everything. The faint hum of the fridge, the streetlight flickering outside, the empty space on the other side of the bed where she usually left her cardigan, her phone, her lies. By morning, I deleted every photo we ever took. Not in a rage, just calmly, one by one. I even laughed at a few. Our 5th anniversary trip, the one where she said she'd come down with food poisoning, but now I realize she was probably texting him from the bathroom. That blurry Christmas photo where I'm wearing a reindeer sweater and she's forcing a smile. All of it looked different now, like I was an extra in my own marriage. At exactly 6:42 a.m., the call started. I let the first 5 go to voicemail. She didn't leave a message. The 6th one I picked up just to hear how she'd spin it. "Glenn." Her voice was shaky, but still trying to sound composed, like she hadn't been caught fondling another man's knee over steak frites. "You left your ring on the table," I said flatly. I know," she whispered. "Can we please talk?" "You mean lie some more?" "No. I need to explain." I didn't say anything. Silence is a mirror, and she was looking straight into it. "It was a mistake," she said. "He means nothing. It was just," she trailed off. "Convenient." I offered. "Don't do that," she snapped suddenly. "Don't twist everything." I almost laughed. Twist everything? She was the one who twisted our vows into knots behind my back and was now upset that the rope was choking her. "Where are you?" she asked, and I could tell it was killing her not to know. I didn't answer. That made her panic. "Please, come home. Let's talk this out like adults." "You want adult conversation?" I asked calmly. "Then tell me how long this has been going on. Tell me when you stopped respecting me. Tell me when lying became easier than loving me." She went quiet, and that told me more than anything. I hung up, and that's when things really began to spiral. An hour later, I was in the garage pulling down boxes from the top shelf, the one she made me keep in case she ever wanted to remodel her office. Well, she could remodel it from somewhere else now. I packed everything she ever claimed as hers into 4 boxes. Neat, labeled, emotionless. I even included that stupid clay mug she made at a pottery class and insisted on keeping, even though it leaked. Then I called her sister. "Megan," I said, "I'm dropping off a few things at your place. Hope you've got room." Her sister didn't even ask what happened. She just said, "I'll be here." So I loaded the car, drove across town, and left every piece of her betrayal on Megan's porch without a word. But just as I was backing out of the driveway, my phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. It read, "You deserve better. You should know the full story." And suddenly, this wasn't just about my wife anymore. It was about someone else watching the wreckage and ready to pull me deeper into it. I stared at that message like it had teeth. You deserve better. Who says that out of nowhere? And why now? The timing was too perfect, almost scripted. I didn't reply right away. My thumbs hovered over the keyboard, heart pounding harder than it had during the confrontation at the restaurant. I wasn't scared. I was curious. Curious in a way that makes your stomach twist, because once you know more, you can't unknow it. I finally replied, "Who is this?" The typing dots appeared almost instantly, like they were waiting for me to respond. I work with your wife. I saw things. I heard things. I couldn't stay quiet anymore. My jaw clenched. So it wasn't just the restaurant or that one dinner. There were things, plural, and someone had seen it. Someone had been watching the slow death of my marriage unfold while I was still tucking love notes into her lunch bag like an idiot. I replied again, "Tell me everything." The response came in pieces, but each one landed like a brick to the chest. According to this person, they never gave a name. The affair had started nearly a year ago. Not with some random guy she met recently. No, it had started at her office retreat. The one she said was boring and mostly PowerPoint presentations. They told me she and Jordan had been flirting in plain sight for months. People saw them sneaking off during lunch breaks, disappearing together during off-site meetings, and even exchanging little notes folded into her planner. I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to see her as that cold, that calculating. But then I remembered the green envelope, the laughter over wine, the mushroom, the ring. Everything was fitting together now, painfully, perfectly. I asked, "Why are you telling me this?" They answered, "Because she's not the only one hiding something. And you're going to find out anyway. Better from me than from her." I froze. What the hell did that mean? Before I could ask, another message came through, a photo. It was a grainy image, probably taken from a distance, but I could clearly see the shape of my wife leaning into Jordan outside their office building. But it wasn't just the two of them. Behind them, looking furious, was her boss, a tall woman named Callie who I'd only met once at a company dinner. Apparently, she hadn't been in on the secret either. I replied, "Why does this matter now?" And the answer I got? Because someone filed an HR complaint against her. There's an investigation. If you think she's panicking now, just wait. My hands went numb. So this wasn't just infidelity anymore. It was workplace misconduct. And now it wasn't just me who had been betrayed. It was her entire office, too. I sat there in my car, staring at the screen, barely breathing. I had come to terms with the affair. But this was a whole other storm. One I hadn't seen coming. Then, another message came in. Short. Final. Check your email. There's more. I opened my inbox. And what I found there changed everything. The email had no subject line, no greeting, just one attachment, a zipped folder titled Tuesday. My hands shook slightly as I downloaded it. I had no idea what to expect. Pictures? Screenshots? A confession? What I didn't expect was video. Inside the folder were 3 short clips. Security camera footage, judging by the angles and timestamps. All from the same afternoon, just 2 weeks ago. Her dentist appointment. I remember because she had mentioned it 3 times that morning, almost like she was rehearsing the alibi. The first clip was from the parking garage under her office. I saw her walk in, alone, in that dark green blazer she said made her feel too corporate. She had clearly changed her mind about that, because there she was, makeup flawless, hair freshly done. She looked excited. I didn't recognize that expression. Not anymore. The second clip hit harder. It showed Jordan already waiting beside her car. He leaned on it like he owned it. The second she approached, he pulled her close. Not like a friend, not like a colleague, but like someone with no fear of being caught. Their kiss lasted nearly 15 seconds. I counted. My brain actually made me count it. Like measuring the depth of the betrayal would help me feel more in control. The third clip was shorter. Them getting into the car together. Her in the passenger seat. Him behind the wheel. And then, driving off. There was no dentist appointment. There never had been. I sat frozen in my car, parked in front of her sister's house with the boxes of her belongings still in the trunk. I didn't know whether to scream or laugh. I had spent months, blaming myself for her distance, for the silence, for the lack of intimacy. I tried harder. I made dinners, planned weekend trips, apologized for things I didn't do just to ease the tension. And all that time, she was off having weekday rendezvous in the back seat of our car. I forwarded the email to myself, then deleted it from my phone. I wasn't sure why I did that, maybe out of some pathetic instinct to protect her. But that instinct was starting to die. That afternoon, I didn't go home. I drove to the one place she never wanted to visit, my parents' old cabin by the lake. She always said it was too dusty, too remote, too boring. Maybe that's why I loved it. There, I finally let myself fall apart. I yelled until my throat went raw. I threw one of her sweaters into the fire just to see if it would make me feel anything. It didn't. That night, While sitting on the dock, my phone buzzed again. It was her. Please call me. I need to talk. It's serious. I didn't reply. 10 minutes later. Something happened at work. I think someone's trying to ruin me. Another buzz. Did you tell Callie? And finally, please, if you ever loved me, don't do this. The irony almost made me laugh. If I ever loved her. Like my love was a switch I'd flipped off for fun. Like it hadn't been bruised, battered, and dragged through a year-long lie. I turned off my phone. But the next morning, I woke up to a voicemail that made my blood run cold. It wasn't from her. It was from Callie, her boss. And what she said opened a door I didn't even know existed. The moment I pressed play on the voicemail, I knew this wasn't going to be a typical workplace courtesy call. Callie's voice was clipped, cold, almost surgical. There was no hello, no small talk, just this. Glenn, I don't know how much you know or how involved you are in what's happening right now, but I need you to understand something very clearly. Your wife is about to lose everything, and she's dragging people down with her. My hand froze around my coffee cup. I wasn't expecting that. I thought maybe a warning, a heads up about the HR complaint. Not this. She continued. There's an internal investigation underway, but the issue isn't just the affair. Jordan lied about his relationship status on company forms, and your wife used her seniority to cover it up. That's grounds for termination for both of them. And worse, if we get sued by the client over that presentation Jordan screwed up while the two of them were in a hotel room, she could be held personally liable. My stomach dropped. I hadn't heard anything about that. A client? A botched presentation? Glenn, Callie said, her voice lower now, more personal. I know we barely met, but I always had the sense you were a decent guy. You deserve to know what kind of professional mess she's made. And you should also know this. She's already trying to pin it on Jordan. She's painting herself as manipulated, coerced. There's talk of legal action. I paused the message and stared out the window at the still lake. The reflection of the trees didn't even ripple. It was all too calm, too still, like nature itself was holding its breath. My wife, the woman who once cried when we missed a mortgage payment, was now playing legal chess to save her skin. Not just cheating on me, but rewriting the script, making herself the victim. I'd seen her do it before. With friends. With coworkers. But I never thought she'd turn it into an actual weapon. I replayed the voicemail, this time noticing something I missed the first time. Callie's tone. She wasn't just warning me. She was angry. And that told me everything. This wasn't a boss protecting her company. This was a woman who felt betrayed by someone she trusted. I texted her. Thanks for the message. I want to help, but I need to know everything. She replied within minutes. Then you need to meet me. In person. I'll send the address. That night, I found myself standing outside a wine bar on the other side of town. Not the kind of place you go to relax. The kind of place where secrets swirl with every glass poured. Callie was already there, sitting in a corner booth. She looked exactly like she had the first night I met her. Powerful, poised, and absolutely done with everyone's nonsense. Thanks for coming, she said, sliding over a thick manila folder. I opened it, and what I saw inside made everything I thought I knew look like child's play. It wasn't just Jordan. There had been another man. Before him. Different city. Different retreat. Different lie. And this time, it had almost cost someone their marriage and their job. I didn't believe it until I saw the records, Callie said. She's done this before. You were never the problem. I didn't speak. I couldn't. Every word felt like glass in my throat. But inside, something finally cracked. Not from grief, but clarity. This woman I'd been grieving? She never existed. And now, it was time to stop surviving and start planning. I left the wine bar with the folder pressed tight under my arm, like it was radioactive. Because in a way it was. It carried the weight of a truth I had only scratched the surface of. On the drive back to the cabin, I couldn't stop replaying what Callie had told me. The second affair. The manipulation. The half-buried HR complaints that had been swept under the rug because my wife was likable, charming, and high-performing. She knew how to work a room. She knew how to smile and apologize just enough to make people doubt their instincts. And I had been the biggest fool of them all. The folder included everything. Copies of anonymous complaints, timelines, email exchanges. One email in particular burned into my brain. It was from her to some guy named Reed, dated nearly a year before she met Jordan. The subject line? Miss Friday already. The body? Just one sentence. That thing you said in the elevator is still echoing in my head. That was during the time she told me she was burned out and needed space to find herself. I remember because I slept on the couch for 2 weeks straight so she could recenter. What a joke. When I got back to the cabin, I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I sat in silence and did something I hadn't done in months. I took out my old leather notebook and started writing. Not just about her. About me. About how I had disappeared inside a marriage that treated my loyalty like a blank check. About the quiet sacrifices that no one applauds. About the nights I stayed up waiting for someone who was already somewhere else. I wrote until the sun started to rise. Then I made a decision. No more hiding. No more reacting. I was going to take back control, not just emotionally, but legally, financially, and publicly. The first step? I met with a lawyer. A good one. Not the cheapest, but someone who didn't flinch when I told him I wanted out. Clean, fast, and quiet. I gave him everything. The affair, the work investigation, the financial lies, the hidden credit card she swore was for emergencies only. He nodded through it all like he'd heard versions before, but something about this case made him pause. He told me the workplace evidence might be useful, even in divorce court. The second step? I made a few calls to her coworkers. Not to destroy her, but to confirm Callie's story. What I got back shocked me. 3 people said she'd flirted heavily during conferences. 1 admitted she'd been warned, unofficially, to cool it after a client dinner that went too far. 1 guy, a temp, told me she cornered him once after drinks and said she loved a good secret. The woman I thought I married wasn't a mistake. She was a stranger. And now that stranger was calling me again. Non-stop. Texts. Missed calls. 1 voicemail that was just her breathing, shaking, and whispering. Please, please, Glenn. I didn't respond. But I knew she was spiraling. Especially after what happened next. Because as my lawyer filed the paperwork, and I finally started pulling money into a separate account, I got a call from Megan, her sister. Glenn, she showed up here. Screaming, crying, saying you were destroying her. What's happening? I paused, then said quietly, she destroyed herself. I just finally stopped pretending it didn't happen. Megan was silent for a moment. Then, she said the last thing I expected. She doesn't know I know, but I saw her with Jordan. A month ago. I didn't say anything because I didn't want to blow up your life. I guess it blew up anyway. Yeah, it did. But the final explosion? That was still coming. And she was about to walk straight into it. The day the divorce papers were delivered, I wasn't at the house. I was 2 towns over, signing a lease on a small office space I'd secretly been working toward. Turns out pain is an excellent motivator. I'd taken my experience in IT and finally built the freelance business I'd always dreamed of. Clients were steady, reviews were glowing, and the numbers in my new solo bank account finally made me feel like I could breathe again. Freedom is quiet at first. Almost too quiet. Like you don't trust it. But then you start waking up without that ache in your chest. You start cooking for one and realizing it's not lonely. It's peaceful. You start listening to music in the car again instead of dead silence or rehearsed arguments in your head. 3 days after the papers were delivered, she came to the house. Megan had warned me. She's falling apart, she said. She thinks you're going to forgive her eventually. But I wasn't even angry anymore. I was done. When she knocked, I was inside, packing the last few things into boxes. I was moving into a new place across town. A fresh start. She didn't know that part. She knocked again, then rang the bell, then called my name. But I didn't answer. I stood behind the curtain and watched her through the small slit in the blinds. She looked like a version of herself I hadn't seen in years. No makeup, puffy eyes, pacing, nervous. She clutched her phone like it might save her. She stayed for 10 minutes. Then, finally, she left. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel cruel. I just felt free. A week later, the divorce was finalized. The fallout at her job was worse than she'd let on. She was forced to resign, quietly, in exchange for avoiding public HR hearings. Jordan was fired outright. I didn't follow the rest. It wasn't my story anymore. As for me, I moved into my new apartment, with windows that looked out over a park where kids played and the world kept turning. I planted new routines. Coffee at sunrise, evening runs, long weekends with friends I'd neglected while trying to hold together something that wasn't real. And one afternoon, while setting up my desk in the new office, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Saw your website. You built something amazing. If you're taking clients, I'd love to talk. It was from a woman named Riley. A referral from a friend. Smart, direct, professional. Our first call lasted 30 minutes. Our second call was scheduled for work. Our third, just to talk. Funny how life breaks you, then rebuilds you better than before. I lost a marriage, but I got myself back. And somehow, in the wreckage, I found the foundation for something real. Maybe even something worth loving again.